He's standing in line. Cart's full. Card's out. 3 seconds from tapping it. He taps. He leaves. Nobody in that store has any idea they just watched a man make a $40,000 decision. Not because the cart cost $40,000, because the decision he just made will keep costing him money for years. Now, picture the guy behind him. Same store. Same kind of card. Same kind of card. Except he pauses. 60 seconds. That's it. He doesn't open a spreadsheet. He doesn't call a financial advisor. He doesn't suddenly become a minimalist. He just waits 60 seconds before he lets the impulse become a transaction. Do that consistently for 25 years, and the difference can become $370,000 without him earning a single extra dollar. Here's the part that matters. They don't look different while it's happening. One man is standing there for 60 seconds. The other man is standing there for 60 seconds. But one is letting the decision happen to him. The other is making the decision himself. By the end of this video, you'll know the 8 moments where that 60-second gap matters most. And you'll have a simple system you can start using today. Because this isn't really a video about spending less. It's about slowing down the exact moments when your money is trying to leave. There are 8 versions of this rule. 8 completely ordinary moments scattered across a normal week where 60 seconds of hesitation can be worth more than another hour spent building a budget. This doesn't care whether you make $40,000 a year or $140,000. It doesn't care whether you're naturally good with money or you've made some terrible decisions with it. It cares about something much simpler, your gap, the space between wanting something and acting on it. Most financial advice starts too late. It tells you what to do with your money after the decision has already been made. Build a budget, track your spending, cut expenses, invest the difference. All useful. But there's a moment before all of that, the moment when you see the thing, you want the thing, and your brain says buy it. That moment might last 3 seconds. That's the moment we're going after. Because if you can consistently create 60 seconds between the impulse and the action, you don't have to win every financial battle with willpower. You can simply stop making so many decisions on autopilot. And once you understand that, the 8 rules start making sense. Here's the idea, and it's almost annoyingly simple. You don't necessarily have a spending problem. You have a speed problem. You've been taught that the biggest financial decisions are the ones that matter most. The house, the car, the career, the investment. And obviously, those decisions matter. But most people don't make hundreds of those decisions. They make a handful. What they do make are dozens of tiny money decisions. Should I order this? Should I upgrade? Should I get the premium version? Should I take the trip? Should I buy this because it's 30% off? Should I keep this subscription? Should I finance it? Should I put on a card and deal with it later? Almost all of those decisions happen incredibly fast. See it, want it, tap, done. That's the gap. And modern spending is extremely good at shrinking it. You don't have to walk to the bank. You don't have to count cash. You don't have to physically hand someone money. Your card is already saved. Your address is already saved. Your shipping information is already saved. Sometimes your fingerprint is enough. You can buy something before your brain has even finished asking whether you actually want it. Notice what your internal conversation sounds like. You don't usually tell yourself, I have carefully analyzed the opportunity cost of this expenditure. You tell yourself, it's on sale. I've been working hard. I'll use it. It's only $40. I deserve something nice. And 30 seconds later, You get the confirmation email. The retailer doesn't necessarily need you to make a terrible decision. They just need you to make a fast one. That's why the pause matters. Not because 60 seconds magically makes you financially intelligent, but because 60 seconds gives the rational part of your brain a chance to enter the conversation. Sometimes that's all it needs. Look at the environment we're making those decisions in. Americans had about $1.25 trillion in outstanding credit card balances at the end of Q1 2026, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And the broader problem isn't just how much people spend. It's how little margin many households have after they spend. The U.S. personal saving rate was 2.7% in June 2026, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. That's personal saving as a percentage of disposable personal income. So we're talking about a financial environment where a huge amount of money is moving through households, while the amount being retained can be surprisingly small. That's exactly why the tiny decisions matter. Because nobody wakes up and says, "Today I'm going to destroy my finances." It usually happens differently. $20 here, $40 there, a subscription you forgot about, a restaurant because you're tired, an upgrade because the old version suddenly feels inadequate, a purchase because everybody else is getting one, a financing offer because you don't want to wait. None of those decisions feels like the decision that changes your life. That's the trick. The dangerous financial decision rarely announces itself. It looks normal. That's why I don't want you to think of this as a discipline problem. You don't need to become a completely different person. You need to insert a small amount of friction between the thought and the transaction. 60 seconds. Now let's make that practical, because there are 8 places where that 60 seconds can do some serious work. Rule 1 is the purchase pause. Before any non-essential purchase over $20, stop for 60 seconds and ask yourself one question. Would I still want this if I had to physically walk into a store and buy it right now? Not tomorrow, not next month, right now. Because convenience can disguise desire as necessity. The numbers on discretionary spending are bigger than most people realize. One 2019 survey of 2,000 U.S. consumers, conducted by one poll for Ladder, found respondents reporting roughly $18,000 a year on non-essential purchases. That's a survey result, not a universal number for every household, but it gives you an idea of how quickly small spending can stack up. You don't need to eliminate $18,000. You don't need to stop enjoying your life. Imagine you simply prevented 1 out of every $7 represented by that spending. That's about $2,570. The point isn't that your number will be exactly that. The point is that the money doesn't have to disappear in the first place. And here's the important part. The pause doesn't tell you no. It tells you to decide. If after 60 seconds you still want it, and it fits your plan, buy it. You're not trying to become cheap. You're trying to make sure the purchase is actually yours. Rule 2 is the subscription pause. This one is almost embarrassingly simple. Before an automatic subscription renews, spend 60 seconds checking whether you actually used it. Not, do I like having it? Not, maybe I'll use it next month. Ask, did I actually use this? Because recurring expenses are dangerous precisely because you don't have to make the decision again. The original decision happened months ago. The money leaving your account today feels like background noise. There's a real perception gap here too. Research frequently cited from C+R Research found consumers estimated their subscription spending at about $86 a month, while their actual spending was around $219. That research isn't a 2026 government statistic, so don't treat $219 as the exact amount every American spends today. The useful part is the gap. People could dramatically underestimate recurring expenses. So once a month, give yourself 60 seconds. Open your bank statement. Look at the recurring charges. Ask, if I had to sign up for this again today, would I? If the answer is no, cancel it. Rule 3 is the want-need sort. Before you buy, give the purchase a category. Need, want, growth, or impulse. That's it. No shame, no judgment, just a label. Because an impulse that stays invisible is easy to obey. An impulse you have to name becomes a decision. And once you've named it, you can ask the question that actually matters. Do I want to spend money on this more than I want whatever this money could become later? That's the question most people never ask. Not because they're irresponsible, but because they never created enough space to ask it. 3 rules down. And now the pause gets much more interesting, because Rule 4 has nothing to do with shopping. It has to do with what happens when your investments start falling. Quick pause. If this is useful, subscribe. This channel is about practical money decisions, the stuff that actually changes what happens to your money over years, not motivational quotes that sound good for 30 seconds. Now back to the list, because Rule 4 is where the 60-second pause stops protecting your wallet and starts protecting your future. Rule 4 is the market crash pause. This one is about panic. The market falls. Your portfolio turns red. The number on the screen gets smaller. And suddenly doing nothing feels irresponsible. That's when the 60 seconds matters. Before you sell anything, ask, did something about my actual life change? Or did a number on a screen scare me? Those are 2 completely different situations. During the COVID crash, the S&P 500 fell roughly 34% from its February 19th, 2020 high to its March 23rd, 2020 low. Then it recovered to its previous high by August. That's a historical example, not a promise about the next crash. Markets can fall further, recovery can take much longer, individual investments can fail permanently. But the lesson matters. A temporary decline can create an extremely permanent decision. If your investment plan hasn't changed, the fact that the screen is red doesn't automatically mean your plan should change. The pause gives you time to separate information from emotion. Rule 5 is the big ticket freeze. Here, 60 seconds isn't enough. If something costs more than $500 and it's discretionary, stretch the pause to 60 minutes. If it's several $1,000s, sleep on it. Because the bigger the purchase, the more expensive an emotional decision becomes. Imagine you're standing in a dealership. The salesperson says, "This price is only available today." Suddenly your brain isn't evaluating the car anymore. It's evaluating the possibility of losing the deal. Those are different things. The freeze changes the question. Instead of, how do I get this deal? You're asking, if this deal disappeared tonight, would I still want the car tomorrow? That's a much better question. Sometimes the answer is yes, great, buy it. But sometimes the urgency disappears the moment you're no longer standing under fluorescent lights with someone telling you the clock is ticking. The freeze doesn't prevent expensive purchases. It prevents manufactured urgency from making the decision for you. Rule 6 is the social spending pause. This one happens constantly. Your friends are going somewhere. Everyone is contributing to the gift. Someone says, "Come on, it's only $80." Everybody has already agreed. Now you're uncomfortable saying no, so you say yes. Not because you wanted to spend the money, but because you didn't want to be the difficult person. That's a different kind of impulse. It's social pressure. So before you agree, take 60 seconds. Ask, would I choose this if nobody was watching me decide? Sometimes the answer is yes. You genuinely want the trip. You genuinely want to contribute. You genuinely want the night out. Perfect. But sometimes the answer is, honestly, I just don't want to look cheap. And now you know what's actually happening. The pause doesn't tell you to become antisocial. It gives you permission to make the decision yourself. 6 rules. Now we get to the part where all of this becomes measurable, because I want to show you exactly what happens when one person repeatedly turns those pauses into an investment habit. Picture 2 coworkers. We'll call them Derek and Alan. Same company, similar age, similar starting income. Neither one is a genius with money. Neither one gets lucky with a stock. The difference starts with something almost laughably small. Derek starts creating a gap. Alan doesn't. Here's exactly what that gap does over 25 years, assuming a steady 8% average annual return. That's an assumption for illustration, not a promise about any real market. Derek uses the purchase pause and the subscription pause from year 1. He invests $230 a month for his first 5 years. In year 3, the big ticket freeze stops him from buying a truck he doesn't need. He redirects that $9,000 into his account instead. When a raise arrives in year 6, he uses the raise pause, and his contribution rises to $400 a month for the next 10 years. Another raise, another pause, $600 a month for his final 10 years. Run that exact contribution schedule at 8%, and Derek's account grows to a little over $400,000 by year 25. Now, Alan. Alan isn't reckless. He's just never created the gap. His first 5 years, every raise and every impulse gets absorbed by his lifestyle before it ever reaches an account. He invests nothing. Around year 6, a coworker talks him into starting something. He puts in $50 a month. He keeps that going for about 10 years, then bumps it to $100 a month after his next raise. Run that same 8% assumption on Alan's schedule, and his account lands around $39,000 by year 25. Same number of years. Same market. Same company. Derek, a little over $400,000. Alan, under $40,000. The gap, close to $370,000. Not from a better job. Not from a lucky stock pick. From 60 seconds, repeated on autopilot for 25 years. That's the title of this video. That's the actual math behind it. Rule 7 is the raise pause. This might be the most important one if your income is rising. You get a raise, your paycheck gets bigger, and almost immediately your lifestyle gets bigger too. Better apartment, better car, more restaurants, more subscriptions, more trips, more upgrades. Nothing feels crazy, but eventually you look around and realize something strange. You make significantly more money than you did 5 years ago, and somehow you don't feel significantly richer. That's lifestyle creep. So when a raise arrives, don't immediately spend it. Pause. 60 seconds. Ask, if I automatically invested this increase before I ever got used to spending it, would I actually miss it? Maybe the answer is yes. Then don't invest all of it. Use some, enjoy the raise. But make the decision consciously, because the most dangerous raise is the one that disappears into your lifestyle before you ever notice it arrived. And this is where you need to define something most people never define. Enough. What does enough actually mean for you? Maybe it's 6 months of expenses in cash. Maybe it's getting out of high-interest debt. Maybe it's a paid-off car. Maybe it's $100,000 invested. Maybe it's the ability to leave a job without immediately panicking about rent. Maybe it's working 4 days a week. Maybe it's simply knowing that one bad month won't destroy you. Define it, because if you don't define enough, your lifestyle will define it for you. And lifestyle has a nasty habit of always moving the finish line. Rule 8 is the debt pause. Before financing something discretionary, stop for 60 seconds. Buy now, pay later. Store financing, credit card balance, personal loan, whatever it is, ask, am I borrowing for my future because I genuinely need to, or because waiting feels inconvenient? Those two things can feel identical in the moment. They're not. If your car breaks down and you need transportation to get to work tomorrow, that's different. If you're choosing between groceries and rent, this isn't the time for a lecture about skipping coffee. And if you're carrying expensive debt or your income doesn't cover your basic needs, the answer isn't to spend 60 seconds agonizing over every $5 purchase. That's a structural problem. You may need debt repayment. You may need to reduce major fixed expenses. You may need to increase income. You may need professional help. The pause is a tool, not a religion. Don't use it where it doesn't belong. Use it for discretionary decisions. Use it when impatience is masquerading as necessity. Use it when emotion is trying to make a financial decision before you've had time to think. You've seen all 8 now. Purchase, subscription, want versus need, market panic, big ticket purchases, social pressure, raises, debt, different situations, same mechanism, create the gap. Now go back to that checkout line. The guy who tapped immediately and the guy who waited. From the outside, nothing happened during those 60 seconds. That's what makes this so powerful. The world didn't change. The store didn't change. The cart didn't change. The price didn't change. But the decision changed. Your financial future isn't created only by the huge decisions you make once every 5 years. It's also created by the tiny decisions you make when nobody is watching. The subscription you cancel. The purchase you don't make. The raise you partially invest. The investment you don't sell because the market scared you. The truck you decide you don't need. The debt you decide you don't want. The night out you realize you were only agreeing to because everyone else was. None of those moments feels like wealth building. But stack enough of them together, and eventually the results become visible. That's why people sometimes look at someone who's financially comfortable and say, they must have gotten lucky. Maybe sometimes they did, but sometimes you're looking at the result of 20 years of tiny decisions nobody noticed. The automatic transfer nobody saw. The car they kept for 3 extra years. The subscription they canceled. The raise they didn't immediately spend. The investment they didn't sell during the panic. The purchase they waited 1 minute to make. That is the real power of the pause. It doesn't make you perfect. It doesn't mean you'll never waste money again. It doesn't mean every impulse is bad. Sometimes you should buy the thing. Sometimes you should take the trip. Sometimes you should upgrade the phone. Sometimes you should spend money just because you enjoy it. The difference is that you're choosing it. Not because an algorithm put the button in front of you. Not because everyone else said yes. Not because the salesperson said today was your only chance. Not because you were tired. Not because you had a bad day. not because waiting felt uncomfortable. You choose. That's what the 60 seconds buys you. Not money, not discipline, choice. And you can test this today. The next time you're about to make a non-essential purchase, don't tell yourself you can never have it. Just wait. 60 seconds. Ask, would I still choose this if the impulse disappeared? If yes, buy it. If no, you just kept your money. Then take that same 60 seconds tomorrow and the day after that. When your next subscription renews, use it. When your next raise arrives, use it. When a market drops, use it. When someone pressures you to spend, use it. When financing suddenly makes something feel affordable, use it. 8 rules. 1 habit. Create the gap. Because 60 seconds doesn't look like wealth. It looks like doing nothing. But sometimes doing nothing for 60 seconds is exactly what gives you enough time to stop doing something you'll regret for 10 years. 60 seconds won't feel like much today. Give it 25 years, and it can feel like $370,000. If you want to make this automatic, I've put together the tracker that turns all 8 pauses into a simple system you can actually use. It's linked below. And if you're starting today, comment pause. Not because commenting changes your finances, but because the next time you're standing at that checkout screen, I want you to remember what this video was really about. The money isn't decided when you tap. It's decided in the 60 seconds before you tap. Use them. And 25 years from now, you may not remember the purchase you almost made. You'll remember what happened because you didn't. Subscribe to YieldWise for weekly money breakdowns. Comment pause if you're starting today. The free 8 rule tracker is linked below.